Hello, biology students. This is Praful Sharma, biology lecturer to UP School Amit. Here in our today's session, we are going to sum up Chapter 6, Anatomy of Flowering Plants, NCERT book, class 11th. You can very easily see the structural similarities and variations in the external morphology of the larger living organisms, both plants and animals. Similarly, if we were to study the internal structure, one also finds several similarities as well as differences. This chapter introduces you to the internal structure and functional organization of higher plants. Let's start with the first term, the tissues. A tissue is a group of cells having a common origin and usually performing a common function. A plant is made up of different kinds of tissues. Tissues are classified into two main groups, namely meristematic and permanent tissues, based on whether the cells being formed are capable of dividing or not. The first is meristematic tissue. Growth in plants is largely restricted to specialized regions of active cell division called meristems. Plants have different kinds of meristems. The meristems which occur at the tip of roots and shoots and produce primary tissue are called apical meristems. Root apical meristem occupies the tip of a root while the shoot apical meristem occupies the distant most region of the stem axis. During the formation of leaves and elongation of a stem, some cells left behind from shoot apical meristem constitute the axillary bud. Such buds are present in the axil of leaves and are capable of forming a branch or a flower. The meristem which occurs between mature tissues is known as intercalary meristem. They occur in grasses and regenerate parts removed by grazing herbivores. Both apical meristem and intercalary meristems are primary meristems because they appear early in life of a plant and contribute to the formation of the primary plant body. The meristem that occurs in the mature regions of roots and shoots of many plants, particularly those that produce woody axis, and appear later than primary meristem, is the secondary or lateral meristem. They are cylindrical. Fascicular vascular cambium, interfascicular cambium, and cork cambium are examples of lateral meristems. These are responsible for producing the secondary tissues. Following divisions of cell in both structurally and functionally meristem, the newly formed cells become structurally and functionally specialized and lose the ability to divide. Such cells are termed permanent or mature cells and constitute the permanent tissues. During the formation of the primary plant body, specific regions of the apical meristem produce dermal tissues, ground tissues, and vascular tissues. Let's talk about the permanent tissues in more detail. The cells of the permanent tissues do not generally divide further. Permanent tissues having all cells similar in structure and function are called simple permanent tissues. Permanent tissues having many different types of cells are called complex permanent tissue. A simple tissue is made of only one type of cells. The various simple tissues in plants are parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma forms the major component within organs. The cells of the parenchyma are generally isodiametric. They may be spherical, oval, round, polygonal, or elongated in shape. They may either be closely packed or have smaller intercellular spaces. The collenchyma occurs in layers. Below the epidermis is most of the dicotyledonous plant. It is found either as a homogeneous layer or in patches. It consists of cells which are much thickened at the corners due to the deposition of cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectic substances. Collenchymatous cells may be oval, spherical, or polygonal and often contain chloroplasts. These cells assimilate food when they contain chloroplasts. Intercellular spaces are absent. They provide mechanical support to the growing parts of the plant, such as young stem and petiole of a leaf. Sclerenchyma consists of long, narrow cells with thick and lignified cell walls having a few or numerous pits. They are usually dead and without protoplasts. On the basis of variation in form, structure, origin, and development, sclerenchyma may be either fiber or scleroids. The fibers are thick-walled, elongated, and pointed cells, generally occurring in groups. In various parts of the plant, the sclerids are spherical, oval, and cylindrical, highly thickened dead cells with very narrow cavities. These are commonly found in the fruit walls of the nuts, pulp of fruits like guava, pear, and sapota, seed coats of legumes, and leaves of tea. Sclerenchyma provides mechanical support to organs. Let's move on to the next type of permanent tissue, that is a complex tissue. The complex tissues are made up of more than one type of cells, and these work together as a unit. Xylem and phloem constitute the complex tissues in plants. Xylem functions as a conducting tissue for water and minerals from roots to the stem and leaves. It also provides mechanical strength to the plant parts. It is composed of 4 different kinds of elements, namely tracheids, vessels, xylem fibers, and xylem parenchyma. Gymnosperms lack vessels in their xylem. Tracheids are elongated or tube-like cells with thick and lignified walls. These are dead and without protoplasm. The inner layer of the cell walls have thickening which vary in different forms. In flowering plant, tracheids and vessels are the main water transporting elements. The vessel cells are also devoid of protoplasm. The presence of vessels is a characteristic feature of angiosperms. Xylem fibers have highly thickened walls, and these may either be septate or aseptate. Xylem parenchyma cells are living and thin-walled, and their cell walls are made up of cellulose. Primary xylem is of 2 types, protoxylem and metaxylem. The first formed primary xylem elements are called protoxylem, and the later formed primary xylem is called metaxylem. In stems, the protoxylem lies towards the center and the metaxylem lies towards the periphery of the organ. This type of primary xylem is called endark. In roots, the protoxylem lies towards the periphery and metaxylem lies towards the center. Such arrangement of primary xylem is called exarch. Phloem transports food materials, usually from leaves to other parts of the plant. Phloem in angiosperms is composed of sieve tube elements, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. Gymnosperm have albuminous cells and sieve cells. They lack sieve tubes and companion cells. Sieve tube elements are also long tube-like structures. They are arranged longitudinally and are associated with companion cells. A mature sieve element possesses a peripheral cytoplasm and a large vacuole but lacks a nucleus. The function of sieve tube are controlled by the nucleus of companion cells. The companion cells are specialized parenchymatous cells which are closely associated with sieve tube elements. The sieve tube elements and companion cells are connected by pit fields present between their common longitudinal walls. Phloem parenchyma is made up of elongated tapering cylindrical cells which have dense cytoplasm and nucleus. The phloem parenchyma stores food material and other substances like resin, latex, and mucilage. Phloem fibers or bast fibers are made up of sclerenchymatous cells. These are generally absent in the primary phloem but are found in the secondary phloem. These are much elongated, unbranched, and have pointed needle-like apices. The first formed primary phloem consists of narrow sieve tubes and is referred to as protophloem. And the later formed phloem has bigger sieve tubes and is referred to as metaphloem. We were discussing types of tissues based on the types of cells present. Let us now consider how tissues vary depending on their location in the plant body. Their structure and function would also be different or dependent on location. On the basis of their structure and location, there are three types of tissue system. These are the epidermal tissue system, the ground or fundamental tissue system, and the vascular or conducting tissue system. The epidermal tissue system forms the outermost covering of the whole plant body and comprises epidermal cells, stomata, and the epidermal appendages, the trichomes and the hair. The epidermis is the outermost layer of primary plant body. It is made up of elongated, compactly arranged cells which forms a continuous layer. The ground tissue system. All tissues except epidermis and vascular bundles constitute the ground tissue. It consists of simple tissues such as parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Parenchymatous cells are usually present in cortex, pericycle, pith, and medullary rays. In the primary stems and roots, in leaves, the ground tissue system consists of thin-walled chloroplast containing cells and is called mesophyll. The vascular system consists of complex tissues and phloem in the xylem. The xylem and phloem together constitute the vascular bundles. In dicot stems, cambium is present between phloem and xylem. Such vascular bundle, because of the presence of cambium, possesses the ability to form secondary xylem and phloem tissues and hence are called open vascular bundles. In the monocotyledonous plants, the vascular bundles have no cambium present in them. Hence, since they do not form secondary tissues, they are referred to as closed. When xylem and phloem within a vascular bundle are arranged in an alternate manner along the different radii, the arrangement is called radial, such as in roots. In conjoint type of vascular bundle, the xylem and phloem are jointly situated along the same radius of vascular bundles. Such vascular bundles are common in stems and leaves. The conjoint vascular bundles usually have the phloem located only on the outer side of xylem. For a better understanding of tissue organization of roots, stems, and leaves, it is convenient to study the transverse sections of the mature zones of these organs. Look at this condition or the figure. It shows the transverse section of a root. The internal tissue organization is as follows. The outermost layer is epiblema. Many of the cells of epiblema protrude in the form of unicellular root hairs. The cortex consists of several layers of thin-walled parenchyma cells with intercellular spaces. The innermost layer of the cortex is endodermis. It comprises a single layer of barrel-shaped cells without any intercellular spaces. The tangential as well as radial walls of the endodermal cells have a deposition of water impermeable waxy material, suberin, in the form of Casparian strips. Next to endodermis lies a few layers of thick-walled parenchymatous cells referred to as pericycle. Initiation of lateral roots and vascular cambium during the secondary growth takes place in these cells. The pith is small or inconspicuous. The parenchymatous cells which lie between the xylem and the phloem are called conjunctive tissue. All tissues on the inner side of endodermis such as pericycle, vascular bundle and pith constitute the stele. The anatomy of the monocote root is similar in the dicote root in many respects. It has epidermis, cortex, epidermis, endodermis, pericycle, vascular bundle and pith. As compared to the dicote root which have fewer xylem bundles, there are usually more than 6. We can say the polyarch condition of xylem bundle in the monocote root is generally seen. Pith is large and well developed. Monocotyledonous roots do not undergo any secondary growth. Let's talk about the TS of a typical young dicotyledonous stem, which shows that the epidermis is the outermost protective layer of the stem. Covered with a thin layer of cuticle, it may bear trichomes and a few stomata. The cells arranged in multiple layers between epidermis and pericycle constitute the cortex. It consists of 3 subzones: the outer hypodermis, the mid-cortical layer, and the inner endodermis. The cells of the endodermis are rich in starch grains, and the layer is also referred to as starch sheath. Pericycle is present on the inner side of the endodermis. A large number of vascular bundles are arranged in a ring. The ring arrangement of vascular bundle is a characteristic feature of dicote stem. A large number of rounded parenchymatous cells with large intercellular spaces which occupy the central proportion of the stem constitute the pith. The monocote stem has a sclerenchymatous hypodermis, a large number of scattered vascular bundle, each surrounded by a sclerenchymatous bundle sheath, and a large conspicuous parenchymatous ground tissue. Vascular bundles are conjoint and closed. Peripheral vascular bundles are generally smaller than the centrally located ones. The phloem parenchyma is absent, and water-containing cavities are present within the vascular bundles. The vertical section of a dorsiventral leaf through the lamina shows 3 main parts, namely epidermis, mesophyll, and vascular system. The epidermis, which covers both the upper surface, adaxial epidermis, and lower surface, abaxial epidermis, of the leaf has a conspicuous cuticle. The abaxial epidermis generally bears more stomata than the adaxial epidermis. The latter may even lack stomata. The tissue between the upper and lower epidermis is the mesophyll, and mesophyll possesses chloroplast and carry photosynthesis. This layer of mesophyll is palisade parenchyma. The another one is spongy parenchyma. The adaxially placed palisade parenchyma is made up of elongated cells which are arranged vertically and parallel to each other. The oval and round and loosely arranged spongy parenchyma is situated below the palisade cells and extend to the lower epidermis. There are numerous large spaces and air cavities between these cells. Vascular system includes vascular bundles, which can be seen in the veins and the midribs. The vascular bundles are surrounded by a layer of thick-walled bundle sheath cells. Let's talk about the isobilateral monocotyledonous leaf. The anatomy of isobilateral leaf is similar to that of the dorsiventral dicot leaf in many ways. It shows the following characteristic differences, like in an isobilateral leaf, the stomata are present on both the surfaces of the epidermis, and the mesophyll is not differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. In grasses, certain adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modifies themselves into large, empty, colorless cells. These are called bulliform cells. When the bulliform cells in the leaves have absorbed water and are turgid, the leaf surfaces are exposed. The parallel venation in monocot leaves is reflected in the near similar sizes of vascular bundles. Let's talk about the next topic, secondary growth. The growth of the roots and stem in the length with the help of apical meristem is called the primary growth. Apart from primary growth, most dicot plants exhibit an increase in girth. This increase is called the secondary growth. The tissues involved in secondary growth are lateral meristem, vascular cambium, and cork cambium. Let's talk about the vascular cambium first. The meristematic layer that is responsible for cutting off vascular tissues, xylem and phloem, is called the vascular cambium. It lies between the xylem and phloem in dicot plants. Let's talk about the formation of cambial ring. In dicot stems, the cells of cambium present between primary xylem and phloem is intrafascicular cambium. The cells of medullary rays adjoining these intrafascicular cambium become meristematic and forms the interfascicular cambium. Thus, a continuous ring of cambium is formed. The cambial ring becomes active and begins to cut off new cells, both towards the inner and outer side. The cells cut off towards the pith matures into secondary xylem, and the cells cut off towards the periphery matures into the secondary phloem. The cambium is generally more active on the inner side than on the outer. As a result, the amount of secondary xylem produced is more than the secondary phloem and soon forms a compact mass. The activity of cambium is under the control of many physiological and environmental factors. In temperate regions, the climate conditions are not uniform throughout the year. In the spring season, cambium is very active and produces a large number of xylem elements having vessels with wider cavities. The wood formed during this season is called the spring wood or early wood. In winter, the cambium is less active and forms fewer xylem elements that have narrow vessels, and this wood is called the autumn wood or late wood. The spring wood is lighter in color and has a lower density, whereas the autumn wood is darker and has a higher density. The two kinds of woods that appear as alternate concentric rings constitute an annual ring. Annual rings seen in a cut stem give an estimate of the age of the tree. In old trees, the greater part of the secondary xylem is dark brown due to deposition of organic compounds like tannin, resin, oil, gums, aromatic substances, and essential oils in the center or innermost layer of the stem. These substances make it hard, durable, and resistant to attacks of microorganisms and insects. This region comprises dead elements with highly lignified walls and is called heartwood. The heartwood doesn't conduct water, but it gives mechanical support to the stem. The peripheral region of the secondary xylem is lighter in color and is known as sapwood. It involves in the conduction of water and minerals from the root to leaf. Let's talk about the cork cambium. As the stem continues to increase in girth due to the activity of vascular cambium, the outer cortical and epidermal layers get broken and needs to be replaced to provide new protective cell layers. Hence, sooner or later, another meristematic tissue called cork cambium or phallogen develops, usually in the cortex region. Phallogen is a couple of layers thick. It is made up of narrow, thin-walled, nearly rectangular cells. Phallogens cut off cells on both the side. The outer side, it differentiates into cork or phallum, while the inner cells differentiates into secondary cortex or phalloderm. The cork is impervious to water due to suberin deposition in the cell wall. The cells of secondary cortex are parenchymatous. Phallogen, phallum and phalloderm are collectively known as periderm. Bark is a known technical term for that refer to all tissues exterior to the vascular cambium, therefore including the secondary phloem. Bark refers to a number of tissues like the periderm and the secondary phloem. It is formed early in the season, is called early or soft bark. Towards the end of the season, it is called late or hard bark. At certain regions, the phallogen cut off closely arranged parenchymatous cells on the outer side instead of the cork cells. These parenchymatous cells soon rupture the epidermis, forming a lens-shaped opening called lenticels. Lenticels permit the exchanges of gases between the outer atmosphere and the internal tissue of the stem. These occur in most woody trees generally. Let's discuss the secondary growth in roots. In the dicot root, the vascular cambium is compactly or completely secondary in origin. It originates from the tissues located just below the phloem bundles, a portion of pericycle tissue, above the protoxylem, forming a complete and continuous wavy ring, and which later becomes circular. Further events are similar to those already described for a dicotyledonous stem. Here, we are done with this chapter. I hope you will understand all the concepts clearly. I'll be here soon. Have a nice day.